Hello and welcome to the Kanawha Valley Hustlers. This is Joe Justice, and I am here in studio with my buddy Bob Theuring, who's a business coach here in town. What I was wanting to do is get with him, talk about a subject for less than 10 minutes, something that we both really feel can help you move the business or move the needle on your business and actually move you forward and help you out. So, Bob, before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I'm, again, Bob Theuring. I own a company called Tandem Innovations. It is a coaching and training company. I do success coaching, life coaching, business coaching, whatever term you want to plug in there, and leadership development, trainings, workshops, and such. And been doing this as my primary thing probably for about the last 8 to 10 years. And my goal is just to help people bring the best out in people and help them become the best versions of themselves and help them to build what they're looking for, what their dream lives and dream businesses. That's the cheesy way to answer it. So
I think that's a great answer. So as we, the topic that I was wanting to talk to you about here today is the topic of the hidden cost of skimping. So, I notice it a lot with businesses where they like to, you could call it, cutting corners, shaving edges, things like that to try to save a couple nickels. You might call it pound foolish, but penny wise. Things like that. So I guess kind of to start off with figuring out that type. What's the difference between, in English we have lots of words. We get skimping. He's cheap. He's frugal. He's thrifty. And some of those have kind of positive connotations. Some of them don't. Like he's a miser. Well, that's a bad thing. Nobody wants to be a miser, right? But at the same time, being thrifty is good. So how do you interpret those different types of ways of being when it comes to money?
When it comes to money, it's a very good question. Background, my dad grew up during Depression time, so I was taught to be thrifty and to be frugal. Now, they weren't negative words. It's just, honest, to be quite truthful, that's more in my blood than anything. That's what I've been taught. So I have this battle myself sometimes, especially when I'm coaching clients to excellence. So the negative words, the cheap, the miser, all these things, that's created words to basically label people. I've been labeled all of them. I'm sure you have at some point in your life. Yes or no?
Not miser. But
okay,
yeah, definitely cheap.
I've not heard that one in my face, but it's possible. But yeah, there's a fine line with this stuff because it's all about cutting corners, or is it, in business? All about shaving costs, or is it? We could go round and round on this.
It's one of the scary things. Me personally, I think it's one of the things that is a problem with large companies in America today. Is it seems more about like shaving those. I'll tell you a story. I remember seeing this commercial, and this was probably 15, 20 years ago. There was a commercial on television that advertised they had used some software, and it was all about the software. They discovered if they just took one slice of bread out of the bag, they would save X number of millions of dollars a year, and this guy was like a financial genius for that. And I remember thinking at that time, like, you're just cheating the customer. Like, that's yeah, you're making more money, but that's not a long-term business strategy in my mind.
No, I don't think so. And it's really an ethical thing when it comes to that, which is a whole other discussion.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a discussion.
But it does tie in, because if we're looking at thrifty, like not giving our all to a client or whatever. Now, interestingly, the first thing you said was when you're talking about money, and that's kind of how we associate everything with cutting corners and being thrifty. And is that true? Is it only about that? I don't know. I'll give you a quick example. I went to an Elton John concert years ago, and I would say if you go to one of those shows, whether you like that music or not, they don't cut corners at an Elton show. Now, if we got to find details, we might find some things, but I think we both agree, pretty successful band, musicians, whatever. But before they came out on stage, there was someone out on his piano, and they were polishing it down. And I was like, that's interesting, because it's going to be a dark. They were meticulously doing it. I was like, okay, whatever. So the show comes on, all these lights come on. The reflection that came off of that thing, amazing, Joe.
Right.
But see, that would be the cost of skimping if they didn't do those little details. Now, is that a money thing? I don't know, but indirectly.
Well, I mean, it would be very easy for Elton John for a bean counter in Elton John's organization to say, how much are we paying that guy? And we don't really need that piano polished. We don't really need any of that. And then now the thing is, if that wasn't polished, you would have never have noticed it. But
probably not.
But you compound that. Well, we don't need this, and we don't need that, and we don't need a tuner. We don't need. It's good enough. Eventually, you're mediocre, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's the one person up in the corner it's their one show they get to make it to. They need our all. They need our best. Those are the things that can make a difference.
I like to think. I love working with people, and it doesn't matter if it's somebody that sweeps the floor or somebody that's like a car mechanic. Whenever you start to talk to them and their eyes light up and they get into all these little detail things because they're very passionate about that, like those are the kinds of people you want to work with.
Yes.
Right? Not the ones when they know all these little things, they're willing to spend the extra. It's like, this is worth it. You should do it. And they see the value. And I guess that's really, I think that's the difference between being thrifty versus being cheap, for example, is the ability to see the value.
Sure. Well, and the money thing, there's the product and then the product capability. There's the maintenance and that kind of thing. And so let's say you have no money and you're wanting to run a business. Well, I can't spend money. Well, there's nothing that stops you from polishing yourself up, making yourself more presentable, more professional, whatever it may be. I got one other good story real quick here. There's a legend has it that a cardinal was going through the Sistine Chapel, and up in the corner he sees Michelangelo up there. Up in the distance, and he's up there for a long time. He says, "What are you doing up there? Nobody can even see that." He says, "Nobody can see those details." He says, "God can see these details." And what's the point of that? You never know the little details, and the hidden cost of skimping is someone sees, they missed that spot, that kind of thing. So,
yeah, absolutely, and I do think, and this might get into one of our other topics that we're going to talk about, but I do think that those little details in bringing that extra value, in providing that value, and not skimping and not saving, I think that those are the things that differentiate the mediocre from the excellent. And as we're kind of wrapping up here, I feel like excellence is, maybe we can't all get there, but we should all aim towards it. And I don't think you can get to excellence on the cheap. That's my opinion on that.
I agree with you. And if you ask anybody, who do you really admire? Who do you really, what have you seen or experienced? And they tell you, odds are that person or that show or that band or that business, they didn't skimp. That's the thing. Now, unless that's their job is to cut corners, but you know what I'm saying? They didn't skimp on those details, and the details is where it's at. The perfectly clean corner of the building that hardly anybody sees. When you see that spark, you're like, man, they don't mess around here, and that's who I want to do business with. Exactly. That's how people should do their businesses.
Absolutely. I could agree more. So, Bob, thank you so much for the discussion here today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching and listening. Remember, this is Joe Justice, the Kanawha Valley Hustler, reminding you to hustle hard, hustle smart, and hustle with a smile.